We all know him as the Honorable Osei Kyei Mensah Bonsu, but he's got an English name. He's called Lawrence. Just in case you never knew, he's Lawrence Osei Kyei Mensah Bonsu. Good morning to you. It's good to have you here in the studio.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. But I think that Lawrence is no longer part of my...
Why have you dropped it?
Well, it was a name that was foisted on me by my very senior cousin.
Right.
And entering class 1 those days. And he gave it to me. I wrote it at the back of my essay book. I went home. My senior brother saw it. So incidentally, he was also Lawrence, the one that I come after. He was also Lawrence, and I was Lawrence Jr. But into secondary school, I decided to drop it and then go by my...
Was there a reason, or you just wanted
The reason really was because I joined what used to be known as the Student Movement for African Unity. And I think fraternizing with colleagues, I got to know that there was not much use bearing the English name. And so I reverted to my own name and my father's name. So combining the two then gave me Osei Kyei Mensah Bonsu.
Okay. You turned 58 this year. Am I correct?
You are.
Yes.
You are.
And you were born a month before Ghana gained independence.
That is so.
February
That
1957.
That is so.
So you have no memory at all of the
No.
events
No.
around at all.
No,
you were
no,
just a month old. Yeah. But I'm sure as you were growing up,
Yes.
your parents did tell you stories. Is there one story that stood out for you around independence?
Well, I think it's all centered around the euphoria that was generated into independence and the expectations of the masses at the time, and what later turned to be for my family, because my grandfather, my mother's father, got arrested very late in his life. I think at the time he was over 70 years, and he got arrested and was imprisoned. And so I think he got released, and a few months thereafter the coup happened, and so the whole family, I would say the entire community, was most jubilant after the events relating to the toppling of First Republic. That is what I remember about it. But I was
You're too young at the
too
time.
young really to remember anything.
Yeah. Okay. At what point did you say to yourself that I want to be a politician?
Secondary school, as I said, I joined the Student Movement for African Unity.
So that's why you developed that interest.
And at the university, I became the hall president of University Hall, affectionately called Katanga Hall. And
also, you're a technocrat, as they call themselves.
Well,
KNUST.
KNUST.
Yeah.
And I used to do a lot of free lancing for many papers. Even at the university, I was writing for the Pioneer. At the time, the editor was Nana Opokwe Champong, who for a long time partnered the lady Saki, the white lady Saki, at Castle Information Bureau and at the PNDC. He was the editor, and he was also she was a columnist, just like I was with Pioneer. And I was writing again for those days, doing a lot of freelancing for Graphic, The Mirror, and so on. And so I took personal interest in politics. But really, to have determined to be a full-time politician, I think the idea had not really matured. And it was into the 90s when we joined ranks with the student leadership at the time to generally oppose what was happening in the system under the PNDC. Even then, it was not to position myself to become a member of parliament, But in the struggle that led to the return to constitutionalism, I joined ranks with the Dankwa Buzia Club. In fact, I was one of the pioneer members, one of the founding members, I should say. And then we went round the country, and at a point, with a return to constitutionalism, I think people thought that I was soon to contest on the ticket of Menshia constituency. But then there emerged Dr. Adokufo, and given his experience, his maturity at the time, I stood aside for him. The constituency eventually came to be divided up into two. Unfortunately, a very close associate of mine, who at the time owned a sports paper for which I wrote, also approached me and asked me to step aside for him at the old Tafo Swami constituency. I did. He participated in the primaries. Unfortunately, he lost out. A woman it was who won, Mrs. Redu. But then we boycotted the parliamentary elections in 1992. Come 1994, when we had to have another primaries, enter Lawyer Mie, very close, friend of mine. In fact, he was an uncle to me. He then also approached me and said to me that he wanted to come to Parliament. He had risen to be at the time, the president of Ghana Bar Association. And so he wanted that to be the icing on his cake, as he told me. So again, I stepped aside for him. Unfortunately, he fell sick after he had won the primaries and had then to step aside, which paved the way for me to come and contest the primaries, which had to be rerun, and I won. So it was a long, tortuous journey for me. So I won, then won the general elections, and entered Parliament in 1997.
Okay, I would come and talk about you being in Parliament very soon, but I want to go back to your days of writing. Is this where you pick your love for big words from? Because when you talk to MPs, and it's unfortunate the gentleman we spoke to this morning, nobody talked about your love for big English words. For instance, at some point, it became so popular in this country, whimsical and capricious. You used those twin words on the floor of Parliament. And it's not just that. You've used a number of words which have become a chorus in this country. Gargantuan, for instance.
Gargantuan I used, but it was popularized by the Honorable Martin Amedu.
Yeah.
But I don't go searching for words.
They just come to you.
They just come to me.
Do you read a lot? You do.
I read a lot. I read a lot, and it's been part of me. Reading has been part of me, and we read a lot, read widely, to cover all manner of topics. So you are able to be a generalist and be able to speak intelligently on any topic that come before you. But those words were not really employed on the floor of Parliament, but at the committee level. The current speaker, the Right Honourable Duajaho, was the chairman of the appointment committee.
Yeah.
And I think we were dealing with the case of the Honourable Mumuni, against whom a case was pending in court. And we then decided to fashion a way out. I think, not to be unkind to the speaker, the rules had changed the following day, because even though we as a committee had taken the position, he came with a different arrangement the next time we met, and I thought that it was most uncharitable to us. And it was like he was determined to pursue a cause, which was why maybe I had to use the words that I used, but not meant to really offend him.
Yeah, but it's not the first time you're hearing this comment, is it?
Well,
about your love for such words. Yeah.
Occasionally people say so, but I don't. As I said, I don't go searching for long words to use. I don't.
Okay.
Maybe they come, to me handily.
Okay, that was just by the way. But you've been in Parliament since 1997. 1997.
Right.
That's a long time.
Not too long. Look, we were in Vietnam recently, in the forum for the IPU, the Inter-Parliamentary Union, which is the World Assembly of Parliaments. I had just handed over as a chairman of one of just 3 committees at that level, and I was asked to speak to the subjects. 3 people were chosen to speak on that subject matter. I, in my 19th year as a member of parliament, happened to be the youngest parliamentarian, because the oldest member who spoke to the subject matter from Israel had been in parliament continuously for 40 years. And in fact, he did bid us goodbye. He said to us that he wasn't going to contest the next election, but he had been there for 40 years. The woman who was with us from Norway has been in parliament for 38 years. So at the time I was addressing them, I was into my 18th year, and I was the youngest member of parliament. So I think that it is generally acknowledged that in parliament, generally speaking, the longer one stays, the more experience one gathers, and the greater the relevance of that person to the institution of parliament.
Okay, but you are aware that people call you Swami Mugabe?
These days they are calling me Swami Messi.
Because you be done bote. We'll come to that. Yeah. How do you feel when people say that you are a Mugabe? Because once you're called a Mugabe in any position, it means you've probably overstayed longer than the people want you to. But in your situation, you're not imposing yourself on the people. They keep voting for you, like we saw recently. But does it worry you that you're given such a tag?
No, I think it's for want of better expression. People want to describe you as a veteran, and maybe just to shorten matters for them, they just refer to you as
Mugabe.
A Mugabe. But I think maybe in the circumstance, a Mugabe will be better than an Uma Bongo.
That's a very good one. Correct me if I'm wrong. I understand when you entered Parliament in 1997, there were 51 of you. 61 of your colleagues. 61. Okay, that's the figure. You're the only one remaining at present.
Now there are 3 of us.
3 of you, rather.
Yes. Into the next dispensation, I'll be the only one.
You'll be the only one
from my side.
Okay. And when you look around you in Parliament, you see very new faces. You know, on the minority side. You've lost a lot of the friends you came in with, and of course with the recent primaries, you've lost certain people who were very close to you, not just close to you, but very, very experienced people. Does it worry you that as a minority leader, you'd have to do it all over again? You'd have to start training the new people who have come on board, look for new positions for the new people who have come on board. How are you going to regroup your next I don't know if you'll still be in the minority, but your group?
Well, in the realm of the lexicon of the times, maybe I would say that it may be a challenge, because people don't want to talk about problems; they talk about challenges. It may be a real challenge. The current crop, we had a capacity building workshop for them at Koforidua just last January, and the clamor was that we should repeat it before the close of the year. Why? Because you see, building the capacity of members of parliament is not a one-day affair. It's not an event. It's a continuing process. And if at the end of the day you have to engage so many new faces, the current crop of the 123, we have 60 who are first-timers. That in itself is a huge challenge. And if you have to add, a huge number to the number that already constitutes the first-timers, it becomes a bit difficult. I would think that we should not be afraid of constant renewal. But if it is so dramatic, it becomes a bit challenging.
Would you call this one dramatic?
If you have such huge numbers, then one would say that it's dramatic. And if you have to add the figures to those of them who are first-timers, as I said, you need some institutional memory. you need those of them who have acquired the relevant knowledge to be able to impart it to them. Gradually, peeling off may have to come, but if it has to be so sudden, it may be a bit destabilizing to the system. But we'll find a way out, because it has happened. We'll have to find a way out and perhaps start engaging those of them who have won even before they come to Parliament. I think that may be a better strategy for us.
But it's not a headache for you, is it?
It is a difficulty, because you see, these days you are forced by the circumstances of the times to stay in Parliament for very long hours, even after Parliament officially adjourns. So these days, the earliest time I'm leaving my office is about 9 o'clock in the evening. Sometimes you stay up to about 12 midnight. And the following morning, you have to come very early to attend to serious business. It cannot continue indefinitely with me. It really would exact a toll on your own personality. If you had people helping in various ways, we didn't have that problem.
Okay.
So I think that maybe the time has arrived for us all in the party to do serious introspection to see whether or not the application of the Constitution in its current form is helping to grow the party, or maybe we need to tinker with a few places to further enrich the party's advance.
There were some political observers, not just political observers, people in your party, people on the other side, media watchers, who thought that it would be suicidal if you had lost this election. As you were campaigning in the run-up to the primaries, did you have any element of fear that you could lose that seat to the young man who reared his head from nowhere?
Which young man are you talking about?
The Jemfi gentleman.
He's not that young.
He's not that young. But, I mean, young.
He's a 56-year-old.
Compared to your experience in politics, I mean.
Well, I didn't have any fear at all. I was not jittery. I was not panicky, because I knew that I had that connect with my constituents. Even though I have scant time for myself, if I am in the country, I've not traveled out, we're not engaged in any workshop, I don't spend weekends in Accra.
You go to Kumasi?
I have to go to Kumasi and connect with them, have constituency executive meetings, and then we have, surgeries with the communities, have meetings with the various electoral areas relating to the office bearers in my party. So we do this constantly. And this year alone, I've done 2 rounds. So there's that bond between me and my constituents. So I had no fear at all that I was going to lose. Others had their own ideas. They thought that because I didn't have much time, perhaps some portion of the land was going fallow, and they could cash in on that. But I must also express my profound gratitude to my colleagues in Parliament when they knew that I'd scant time for myself, how to represent Parliament. I spoke about our visit to Vietnam.
Yeah.
The Speaker, who was represented by the First Deputy Speaker, the Majority Leader, myself. Then we had to go to France, to South Africa, to Tanzania, to Mauritania, to Chad at various times. Recently, the Majority Leader and I even had to go to Nigeria, to Port Harcourt, to provide some education to the PDP members of Parliament. They've been in Parliament. They've been in majority in Parliament for 16 continuous years. Yes. All of a sudden, they lost it, and then they have been at the presidency for 16 continuous years. All of a sudden, they've lost that one too. So they asked us to come and provide them with some orientation, and in particular, myself. They said we were in a position, we won, and we have lost. To the Majority Leader, they were in government, they lost, they bounced back. So how come? They wanted some useful lessons, and went there to offer some to share some experiences.
And
with
at
them.
the time, others were busy
At
campaigning.
the time, others were busy. In fact, when I returned, I had to be in Dakar on UNDP program to also engage in some discussions, and I told them I begged them that it was too close for comfort. So that program, that segment, has been left out for me to come and provide whatever I have to provide. Maybe the next 2 weeks I may have to go there, but even today I'm traveling out. So because we have scant time, people felt they could fail themselves in. But as I said, I had faith and trust in the people out there, knowing that we've been together all this while. We attend funerals together. We go visiting the sick among us together. We go to church together. And then I talked to them at various fora. So I knew that they would demonstrate solidarity with me.
And what a landslide victory was for you.
You asked me, I will honestly tell you that I was a bit disappointed in the numbers.
You were?
Yes, because I knew there was no way I was going to get less than 300. But the worst case scenario that we had worked out was about 320. I had absolute confidence in them. But of course, in any such game, I mean, the associations, homeboyism, colleaguism, schoolmates, family members, residing in the same community, and so on and so forth. This could play out. So I said to myself that the worst case scenario, west will be 300. And so it means that at least 17 people disappointed. But not to be overly selfish, let them share the rest. But admittedly, they also put up a spirited fight.
Yeah.
And I recognize the various competences that they demonstrated. And I guess that if we bond together with them, it should be possible to up the levels of our performance. I'm talking about what we achieved in 2012. I think it should be possible for us to further increase the percentages and the absolute numbers.
How much did you spend on this election? Is it something you want to review? Because we understand money was very critical in this election. And it's not just in your party. Elections in this country most of the time borders on money. And we saw some of your colleagues basically dishing out a lot of cash. They spent a lot of money on delegates. I heard this morning that some delegates were promised cars. What did you have to do? Or was it just based on trust?
Well, I would be most untruthful to myself if I say that I didn't spend anything. Because I had little time for myself. Whenever I went there, you had to assemble people from a particular electoral area at a particular place. And when you did that, you provide them with transport, usually 10 cedis per head. I'm being candid. Usually 10 cedis per head. And I did that continuously about 5 times before in the lead up to the elections. So you spend some money. I mean, we cannot kid ourselves. I'm told that people, spent much higher amounts than, as I said, I was doing. We should all be concerned as a country, not as a party. As a party, yes. As a country, we should. Because we witnessed the organization of regional party elections. And in one region, an aspiring regional chairman was dishing out flat screens, television flash. We all know. Is it the way to go as a country? As far as I'm concerned, it's the recipe for corruption. If you allow this, if you allow such uncontrolled, infusion of money into our politics, they will buy the verdict, and the people's verdict could be stolen. And if we are not careful, we may also have situations where people with, fat wallets, and nobody will want to know the origins of the what's in the wallets, and that will be corrupting our body politic. And I think as a nation we should all be concerned. I was, cocooned in my own zone, so I know what happened there. I'm not too sure that anybody overspent in my area. But after we got out, then we heard all manner of stories. I must admit that I've not yet spoken to any of the contestants outside my constituency. So I'm not in a position to confirm or deny anything. I need to talk to my colleagues to see the veracity in the rumors that I'm hearing. But we should all be concerned.
Yeah, I like the fact that you talk about the nation being concerned, because if we are not careful, at some point we are going to get the wrong people in Parliament. The people with the ideas and the competencies will not get the votes because they do not have the wherewithal to pay the delegates. So it's a very important point that you've made there. If you had lost the seat, would you have resigned as a minority leader?
Well, I think this is a very speculative question. And
because I understand there have been plots to have you resign from the position as minority leader.
I don't know
within your party.
I don't know.
I'm reliably told from people very close to you.
You see, at Champon's time, there was a law against rumor mongering. So I don't know whether you are mongering rumors.
No, I am not mongering rumor at all.
But I knew that it wasn't going to happen. So it didn't even cross my mind at all. It didn't cross my mind at all. And I don't want to think about it. Because if you think about it, then you go looking for people behind the plot. And of course, if people plot to have coups and they are not successful, you go after them. Do you need that? You don't need that for anything. You should stay focused. And to me, that's what.
But of course, there were also plots to unseat you within your party and then on the other side as well. This one cannot be rumor mongering.
Well, I would say that I had messages of solidarity from all over. I mean, from my party members, from my colleague members in Parliament, across the political divide, and I was most encouraged by that. I don't know of plots against me from the other side, but I would say to you that people were concerned that I shouldn't lose my seat because of the little that I'm able to do for not only my party and for my parliamentary group, but also for country Ghana. So people were concerned, and outside Parliament we had all manner of people from every nook and cranny of this country. Every morning, on daily basis, we have calls and messages from not less than about 50 people wishing you well, imams, pastors, all saying they are praying, fasting for you. And I knew God's mighty hand was in operation. And with that, I couldn't go wrong.
Are you religious?
I am. I belong to the Assemblies of God Church. I am.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about your private life very soon. You've lost very key people. I mean, I've already mentioned this. Is there one particular gentleman or lady who's lost the seat that hurts you most?
Well, there's some that didn't contest. I tried to persuade them to contest. They didn't. Papa Usiankuma, we've lost him, or we're going to lose him. Professor Fobi, he's a warehouse of knowledge, as far as education itself is concerned. We'll have Isaac Osei, Dr. Anani as being a minister, and he brings something to bear on our discussions. Many of them. W. Obuafo. In Parliament, because as a minority leader, I don't have, too much space for myself. He's one person that I've recruited to be with me in crafting legislation. So when we come to Parliament from our side, he's one person who is always with me in scrutinizing bills. And he's come to feel himself in such that if you talk about legislation in Parliament today, nobody would miss the name of W. Obuafo. He's gone. So we have these people. Of course, some of the new entrants who are coming are good materials in their own rights. But of course, parliamentary business is a different ball game. But I think some of them have good potential if we exploit them. they could maybe rise up in no time to fill in. So let's see what would come out from this vote.
Okay.
What I do know is that those of them who come and are not lazy and are prepared to learn.
Do you have lazy MPs in your fold?
There are some with considerable ability, potential. You want me to mention lazy MPs? You visit us regularly, and you are always watching the radar of Parliament.
Yeah.
So that observation should come from you. But of course, I mean, we don't all operate at the same level. I mean, we are a human institution, so some would, pop up strongly than others. So that's what it is. But I want to believe that the new ones would demonstrate some competence and learn fast enough in order for them to be able to make up in the shortest possible time.
Okay. How do you react to certain concerns or comments from people that you probably don't hit this government too hard? Some say that you haven't been as effective as they expected you to be as a minority leader because you're not hitting the government.
I don't know where they are coming from. A lawyer whose name I don't recollect as closely associated with our party once took me on. So I asked him, what is it that you think I should be doing that I'm not doing? You know what we do, the usual tools open to us: question time, statements, petitions, motions, and so on. The traditional tools of putting a ruling party on their toes. We employ these things. You remember that at a particular point in time, was it last year? Last year, for the first time in the history of this parliament, we were able to compel a parliament that was on recess to come and debate an issue. That was the first time. We have press releases, press conferences, and issues that we have raised in parliaments and even outside parliament. For the first time, I would tell you that we had this press conference on cocoa affairs, and we went to Sefi Rioso to hold it. That was the first time a parliamentary group had moved from the presence of parliament to, associate with a group within the Ghanaian society to identify with them and, talk on their behalf. For the first time, the press conferences that we've had, the person was talking about what Kyei Mensah was doing between 1996 and 2000. And at the time I was the secretary to the minority caucus, we had 5 press conferences, right? One was on the Kita Sea Defense War. The 4 others were on the budget. Between last year and this year alone, we had more than 12 press conferences. So for anybody to say that we are treating government with case gloves, I cannot comprehend.
That's actually not the word they've used. You're too cozy with this government. Yeah.
How?
I don't know. Lovey-dovey.
How? As in what? Because we do what we are expected to do, and in fact, overreach ourselves. And sometimes the NDC is criticizing us that you are always leading them in attacking us, in having press conferences, and so on and so forth. The truth of the matter is, 2013, right after the general elections and the court case that ensued, we thought we should lift our foot a bit off the accelerator pedal to allow for Ghanaians to appreciate the case that was, unfolding at the courts. So I remember even those days, we had to dissociate ourselves with events at the appointment committee and so on. So we wanted the case to really sink in. That was it. But beyond that, even then, we had 5 press conferences alongside. Remember, there was one that was held, which was read by Nana Yasaf Mafo, and people took him to the cleaners. that thing was written by me, by the minority, even though it was read by Nana Yasaf Mafo. So we have been doing all these things every year, and it's become ritualistic.
Yeah.
So maybe if there are any innovative ideas that people could also generate for us, we want really to put government on its toes. And we all know what is happening in this country, that things are certainly not good. And every time we talk about these things, petroleum issues, energy issues, agricultural issues, unemployment issues, the sale of banks and so on, and even judgment tax. We've been talking about these things. So for anybody who say that we are not hitting hard enough, I don't know what else they want us to do.
Okay.
We've been doing our best.
Yeah. Your party dominated the news for some time. Last month, this month, the crisis in your party, whether people belong to Nanado's camp or Chairman Afoku's camp. Was your voice heard on this matter at all in helping to resolve the issues in this party?
The minority met and considered the matters, and we took a position. And I think we came out with a release to the party that was meant to be, our own internal matter. So we didn't go sounding gong that this is the position of the minority. So we spoke about that.
Okay, but people were actually wondering, the minority leader who's so vocal, when issues kept coming up here and there, they thought you would not wade in, maybe wade in is a rather negative word this morning, but come in and make your voice heard louder.
The thing is, when we had not elected the presidential candidate, the minority leader would lead in the parliamentary group. Of course, we do know that a party in opposition is born at the back of the parliamentary group. So if you have not elected the presidential candidate, then the fight will be led by the minority in parliament, which group will be arrow-headed by the minority leader. Now that we have a presidential candidate, like John the Baptist preceding Jesus Christ, he must diminish in order for Jesus Christ.
Would you say that he carried out that position very well? People have questioned his leadership skills when the crisis, when issues were coming up, your party was boiling. People say that he didn't show leadership attributes. He came in too little, too late. Would you agree?
Well,
could he have addressed it differently?
If he had come in, much earlier, people would have questioned it. So you have people critiquing whatever you do. I think the important thing for us as a parliament, as a party, is to try to resolve differences within, rather than on any minor matter, creating platforms for ourselves and letting people hear our voices.
Would you say that you're solving the matters, right?
Yeah.
You are?
We are. Certainly behind the curtains, we are. And I believe that the problem, one problem really, was what remained to be done, which business was transacted last Saturday. We needed to scale that hurdle because attention was a bit divided. The parliamentary group itself was fully engaged in this exercise. So now that we have scaled that hurdle, I think that we should be able to bond together and resolve whatever.
You think you can win the 2016 elections?
With God on our side.
You can win it?
With God on our side.
Okay.
And we have to work hard anyway.
Okay. You're a planner, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah. And so I can't let you go without talking about urban planning, especially with what the floods keep doing to us every year. The last time TV3 launched our disaster fund, President Kufuor was a key speaker, and he did talk about professionals making their voice heard. Apparently, you professionals have gone to bed, you've gone to sleep, you've gone into hiding, and you're allowing just about anybody to comment on issues that planners like you, engineers, architects should be talking about. Would you agree with President Kufuor when he says that professional institutions are probably not living up to expectation?
First of all, I agree that we should be much more serious with our land use planning. Otherwise, we build for ourselves 21st century squatter settlements, even with what we profess to be our choice areas. You compare what is happening to Ghana's East Legon, which we think that is a prime area, to what is happening in other residential areas in South Africa, in Southern Africa. You visit the countries there, Rwanda, South Africa itself, even Zimbabwe. Go to Bulawayo, go to Harare, and look at the land use and the planning schemes that have been adopted in these communities. And as I said, we'll be describing our own East Legon as a 21st century squatter settlement. Again, I think the other thing that we are losing control of is where we have positioned the town and country planning, for instance. If you subsume it under the disassemblies, right? Many people there, with respect to them, non-professionals, and the professionals do their own thing, and then somebody just gets up one day to say that, well, we have done some rezoning. What the professionals have already, done. Somebody rises up one day to say that we have done rezoning, now we're going to do this thing here. You diminish whatever might have been done. So we need to take these matters up, be much more serious with our land use planning. And I agree with President Kufuor that we should give space to the professionals in these areas than to the people who are charged with managing the system, especially the political administrators. And I think that will free the hand. You see, I also think that we should, at this critical time, as a nation, address our land tenure system. Our land tenure system. In this country, for instance, whereas if you have some money in your briefcase, you'll be able to procure a parcel of land in, let's say, 2 weeks, if you are serious, and you have, huge works of money. Yeah. But having title to that parcel becomes another nightmare.
Yeah.
So we should be able to, streamline it. We started our land reform project way back, more than 20 years ago. Yeah. We're not done with it yet. Uganda sent people here to understudy us. They are implementing it. Kenya sent people here to understudy us. They are through with it. They are implementing it. We are not through with our land reform project. 20 years on. Are we serious as a nation? Are we serious as a nation? We aren't. So I think that we should be careful and, confront the issues frontally. And let's cut out the politics. Okay. Let's cut out the politics.
2 things before we wrap up. Do you have any regrets as an MP?
Not really. I think we're serving God and country. Sometimes people attack you in a very unprofessional way. They themselves may not know much about what the business of Parliament is. And sometimes people confront you on the streets and hurl a few words of insult at you.
Oh dear.
But as Professor Buzia said, to be a successful politician in Africa, you must have a huge belly to absorb all manner of, matters.
Yeah.
That may include the good and the bad.
Right. When will you retire from Parliament?
When the applause is loudest, I'll bow out.
The applause is still loud for you. Everybody has kind words for you.
I want to believe.
At some point, you will let it go.
Certainly.
Okay. What's your favorite color?
My favorite color?
Red.
As in what?
No, your favorite color.
As in wearing or appreciating. The 2 things are different.
The 2 things are different. Okay,
yes.
Wearing.
As in wearing, blue, navy blue.
Okay, so appreciating.
Yes. Appreciating, like Red, white.
Red, white.
Yes.
Is it fair to conclude that you're a Kotoko fan?
I started with Hazebuk and then migrated to Kotoko.
Wow. I don't think the Hearts fans would forgive you this morning for that migration. Your favorite food? Fufu, I'm told.
Oh, not really.
Oh,
not really.
I was lied to that.
I, in my infancy, I wasn't taking food, but growing up, I saw what I'd missed, so I want to make up for the arrears. But I take fufu if I'm in Ghana twice a week.
Twice?
Sometimes. That is if I'm in Ghana.
Yeah.
But at least over a weekend, if I don't have it on a Wednesday, the weekend I should have one.
So Wednesday and then the weekend.
Wednesday and the weekend.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honourable Minority Leader Osei Kyei Mensah Bonsu, Member of Parliament for Swame Constituency. We're very happy that you're going to be in Parliament from 2016 for another 4 years.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for the complimentary words that I heard you uttered on my behalf. I think I should be thankful to you for the solidarity and the belief in me that I'll be able to do something good for country and for Parliament.
Thank you very much for your time this morning. We go straight to Nana Kojo Afre, who's standing by with the sports. Nana Kojo Afre, how are the Senegalese faring at the moment?
Well, Senegal are out of the...
Of course. Are they crying?
No, they are not crying. They believe that, they know that Brazil was a better team than they were, so definitely they are not crying. But right now, as we speak, it's Mali versus Serbia, and that game is 1-1, and we're hoping that Mali can progress to the final of the Under-20 World Cup because Africa needs a representative in there.
Even though it's very much heartbreaking for me as a Ghanaian because it should have been Ghana.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
But Mali were a better side than us.
Go on with the sports.
All right, thank you very much. And time for us to do sports on Newday. My name is Nana Kojo Afre, and we begin with the Ghana Premier League as we look at match day 18 and the fixtures that are coming up. Kumasi Asante Kotoko